Tim, who is the CEO of Deus. Tim, welcome to the Markets Hunter program today. How are you?
I'm fine, Hunter. How are you? Thank you for the time.
Oh, no, thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. We always have really great conversations on what Deus is doing. And I think it's important because I've been reading a lot in the headlines, Tim, of PFOS. And I know, really before I started following your company and following what Deus was really doing and some of the incredible innovations, I didn't realize, the amount of forever chemicals. And I think that the more exposure because of COVID that got people thinking and learning and hearing about this. It's really fascinating what your company's doing. And we've talked a lot about some of the innovations that you've been working on with Deus. Everything from your some of the nano products that you have, the air conditioning products that you have from HVAC, which we'll dive into a little bit and see where you're at as a company, to some of the relationships you have with these very large multinational companies that you're doing building with. But first, I want to turn to some headlines, Tim, and I want to get your thoughts on this. There's a couple of headlines that we're looking at. In Lakeland, Florida, firefighters are now limits, and the headline actually says Lakeland firefighters limit use of their protective gear due to PFOS exposure. So not only are we getting PFOS in our water and in plastics and all these other home goods that we have, but now the very firefighters out there, it's in the clothes that they're wearing, the protective gears that we're wearing. So really, it seems to me that PFOS, this forever chemical, is everywhere.
Yes, that's true. And that's why early on I said that I've never seen the EPA and its counterparts around the world move so quickly.
Well, I think as we look at, and we've talked about these events before, like in Flint, Michigan, or this recent train derailment that's happened, where there was a spilling of chemicals. And I'd like to talk about for a second water. And I'd like to go into a little bit about the technology that Deus has with the nanoparticle that you have and what it does with water that's contaminated and how it works kind of from a material aspect to basically stopping these chemicals from being in the water. So, this water purification. So, I'd like to kind of dive into that a little bit because I think that's important for our viewers to kind of understand.
Sure. It's the most incredibly complex, simple product or technology that you can ever imagine. You say, how can it be incredibly complex but simple? It is. All it does really is it uses chemistry, a little bit of physics, um, and it separates contaminants from the water, the actual water molecule. So what you get out of a nanoclear system, which is what we call the water processing unit, is perfectly clean water. But on the other side, what builds up over time in the aggregate is all of this bad stuff, in this case, PFAS materials. We filter out 100% of them. Reverse osmosis does about 94%. There's a big difference between those two. And people are jumping on it quickly. I just happened to notice, just for the heck of it, I went to Amazon today, and there are already 78 different vendors saying that here, this product takes PFAS out of your water. Oh, to a certain degree, they're not wrong, but it's the question of how much and how low.
Right. Tim, can you talk a little bit about, obviously, when we look at, PFAS being a group of these synthetic chemicals, which, from all of my research into Deus and it's really kind of opened my eyes, but they're seemingly inescapable as they're found in really a lot of common items. But let's talk a little bit about some of the technology applications that Deus is focused on. One of which is your technology is found in some of the crisper drawers where we store our vegetables to increase the longevity of our food, which is great. But are there applications that Deus can use in like the water filters within the refrigeration systems out there?
Yeah.
So
Yes, that's the beauty of this material, and that's why we say it's disruptive. As much as I fought saying that word for so many years, it truly is disruptive simply because you can conquer other revenue streams and bring them into your fold because of the effectiveness of this material set that we've developed. And it's not some crazy CEO and a bunch of guys and girls down in Florida that have worked on this stuff for years. It's fact, it's proven. So yes, we can do that type of thing. It's the uses are limited by your imagination. They really are.
And so the four main kind of key focus points for Deus, and this is just kind of a refresh, but you have the conserve product, you
Right?
have
That's HVAC.
right, that's for the HVAC, which you're currently working with several large entities, for implementing those solutions. You have the Nano Air product, you have the Nano Cap product, and the Nano Clear product. Obviously, there's tremendous applications on all of those. Where do you see Deus with those four particular groups seeing the quickest, uh, you know, adoptability, if you will, in the marketplace? What are people going after like the quickest? Or you're seeing a lot of attention. Is it the HVAC? Is it the refrigerators? Where are you seeing the
Well,
demand?
we look at the business as five different opportunities, five different markets, and the cross industry version where you see things like material of this nature in a refrigerator. Never unheard of. Never done anything like that before, but it it works really well. People like it. So the cross industry ones are interesting. The margins are high and they're easy to adopt. That's one thing. The conserve has been out for about 15 years, and the pandemic and climate change intersecting has it created a perfect opportunity because people now understand for the first time what ventilation really does for them. So if you think of HVAC, the V is ventilation. Most people, as soon as they hear that, their eyes go bad because who wants to talk about air conditioning? It just costs them money. Well, this happens to save your life and do a lot of positive things for you. Makes you healthier. It makes you more productive. It saves you money. It cuts down on emissions. Not many products can say they do all those things at once. So Conserve, the cross-industry products, they're going to lead the way. Behind it, you've got the other HVAC products. We call the next one Disruptor, um, that manages humidification, dehumidification and humidification with a huge difference from what it goes on today. So you're now reinventing what Willis Carrier did way back in 1903. The next portion of that is you bring in Nano Air, which is the cooling piece. Um, so you're not using any refrigerants. You can split the management of how you treat a building by its moisture content and its temperature. You can't do that today. It's just one. So there are a lot of benefits to it, and it's all coming together. The water, the Nano Clear, is just incredibly amazing. It's like to me watching a Boeing 787 or 747 takeoff. You know, scientifically, engineering was why that thing can do it, but it still get you 389-ton thing up in the air. It's the same thing here. You can stand next to it, and the water is so bad you have to wear a suit that you can't breathe the air with the water with the contaminants in it. And seconds later, it comes out the other end perfectly clean.
Yeah, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And
It
and
is. It is.
I've had the pleasure of talking, Tim, not just with you and some of your team, but other companies that are in kind of the sustainability or in some sort of purification business industry, if you will. And one of the things that I find very interesting is now with this whole kind of green sustainability movement, where people and obviously this is a result of COVID, people are much more inclined to be aware of the water that they're drinking,
Yes.
or the cleanliness of rooms and things like that. But when we look at the HVAC and kind of how you're almost and correct me if I'm wrong, you're using that as kind of the entry point into an industry, and then all these trail along technologies follow behind it. So it's
That's a
like
good way of putting it. Yes, for sure. When we first started Conserve back in 2005, 2006, we were literally laughed out of the big three air conditioning companies. You're crazy. Membranes in air conditioning equipment. It was pretty embarrassing. But the bottom line is, look where you are 15 years later. A lot of people are using membranes. It's not as good as ours, thank God. But yeah,
so, Tim, when we talk about obviously we go back in history, we look at really the air conditioning has not really been reinvented since, or has really been innovated upon, maybe in little ways here and there from when Carrier started. But when we look at this type of technology, it would seem to me as a person that would want my home to have air conditioning. I mean, we're in Florida, so air conditioning is a luxury, at times. But I would want to make sure that the processing and that ventilation is pure coming in. I don't want to be having harmful toxins come in through my air conditioning unit because it's full with PFAS. What is the consumer market going to look like as opposed to the industrial kind of corporate world? I mean, are we looking at these larger entities rolling out your type of product to the everyday household?
Oh, sure. You look at the big air conditioning companies around the world; they're all chasing what we are doing. And I don't mean to sound arrogant about that. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. Uh,
Sure.
but the architecture of what we have today, and we've known for a long time, it works and it's done a great job, but it hasn't kept pace with the market and the market needs. So we have a new architecture, and that architecture allows us to use the features of this nanomaterial to produce a higher efficiency machine, uses less electricity, creates less emissions, it's healthier for you, it gives you more features that you can be more comfortable with. And the best news of all is the fact that it looks like right now we should be able to be at least on parity with the existing equipment, if not lower, with volumes that people talk for air conditioning equipment. So we're really proud of it. I wish it could go a lot faster. But
Right, right.
gated,
Well,
gated by resource.
we are following the company very closely, Tim, and I'm a big advocate of this because I like the technology. I think it's definitely a disruptive driver. It's very innovative technology. It's actually incredible technology. I think should have wide ranging application, and not just for the betterment of the company and corporate growth and returning your shareholder value,
I
but
agree with
it's
you. Yes.
good for people.
Yes. At some point you have to look at this and say, okay, the money is good, and that's a real good thing, and you want to make sure the shareholders get their due, putting up with me and all the rest of us. But the bottom line is that you want to do something that's right, and you want to leave the world in a little bit better shape than you found it. And right now, it needs some help.
Yeah. Tim, talk a little bit about kind of the model right now. I know we've covered this in the past, but you're obviously not manufacturing air conditioners. You're a widget that goes inside said air conditioners. In these HVAC applications, is it a licensing model? Are you looking at licensing out this to the top three, or are one of them just going to say, hey, we want to have the best air conditioning, and so you can only work with us? I mean, what are you seeing from a business landscape in trying to grow the organization?
Yes, you
Yes.
mentioned them all. We're going to move, and we're going to monetize as much as we can. We're going to make the return back to the shareholders as high as we can. And we're going to do a good job doing it with a quality product that we're all really proud of.
So one last thing I want to talk about while we have you today is the nano cap, the capacitors
Yep.
for the energy storage. We haven't really talked about this, and I want to get your take on, walk us through what that is, what it has to do with the smart grid, and the storage. What is this going to lead us to with regards to renewable electricity in the grid? Because obviously we talked, you know, air conditioning now, people complain about the price, right? And we've talked about this in the past, Tim, and it was actually fascinating. Those little orange stickers when you're, at Lowe's or something, it says, or Best Buy, and you want to go buy a new refrigerator or a washing machine or something, and you've got that yellow thing, and this is the energy saving, and this will only cost you, $20 a year in energy costs or energy efficient, and you get the GE sticker, which, you and I have talked about is really kind of a bunch of hogwash, right? And it really doesn't even mean anything. And it's just kind of like a marketing tool. But talk to us about the cost saving measures and how this technology uh, can be implemented in that capacity of reducing the overall energy costs.
Well, first and foremost, we have not done a lot of work with the ultracapacitor since 2014, 2012.
Okay.
And the reason is we're a small company and you have to focus on certain things. If we told you everything that could be done, everybody would hang up and say the guy's a nut. Um, Maybe that's still the case. But the point is that we haven't really pushed it. We do have a lot of incredibly interesting information, data, um, from some big companies, GE being one of them, in terms of what it does. We did store energy in the material. So the idea is that, okay, it needs some work, but you bring it out and its characteristics, and you think about wind. Okay, fine. Well, at night or the solar, when those aren't working, you don't have wind and you don't have sun. What are you going to do? Well, during the day, you charge these things up, and at night, you discharge them.
Mm.
Storage is the holy grail in a lot of ways. It levels out the grid. Um, it makes things easier to achieve in terms of different pricing plans for the utilities. So, storage has always been just a fox hunt that everybody's chased for years and years and years. Do I think we have a good, strong franchise in that particular area? Time would tell. Once we get the resource, we'll work on it. Or if somebody wants to license it, we'll do that too.
Very good. Well, Tim, thank you so much, and it's always great to talk about all this type of innovation, especially when we're talking about water purification. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the news now with PFAS and what's going on in the European Union, and where they're kind of pushing this to eliminate all PFAS in the next 2 years, which is definitely very ambitious. But you got to be able.
So is the U.S. EPA, which is incredibly interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So, was that the U.S.'s response to the EU moving first, or uh, what's your thought process on?
Oh, I don't know about that. I know there's rivalries, I'm sure, but I think that the EPA, in my opinion, watching what the work that they did in the last, so we first heard about this in 2019, um, in China of all places. Uh, I think they've moved incredibly fast. I think they've done a great job looking at the situation here in the U.S., which is a little bit different than the U.K. So was it a response? No, I think it was just a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned China, and I mean that would seem like a tremendous market opportunity for Deus, especially from a licensing perspective. Have organizations reached out to you? I mean, China with their pollution, I would assume that they would be all over your type of technology.
Well, China's looking at the problem right now. The 2023 is their year of investigation. Remember, they just came out from under a self-induced coma with COVID.
Right.
So they're doing a lot of things now, and they're moving quickly, very quickly. We are fortunate to have a relationship with the Chinese Research Academy of Environmental Sciences, which does all the water work in China. So kind of have an idea what's happening there, and they're going to come out with their rules and regulations late this year, early next year. And I suspect you're going to see, because they are the world's manufacturing hub, I expect you're going to see some eye-opening numbers. But right now, it's still kind of in an infancy, maybe where it was in the U.S. a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
So that
And
we.
I'm not saying that we're ahead of them. No, no, no. I'm just saying that the luck of the draw, we were able to get out from underneath COVID sooner, and we took the advantage of that as it related to things like PFAS.
Well, no, I mean, obviously, it expands potential market share for the company. So it's definitely, at least the conversations are going on. So that's a very
Yeah.
positive thing. So,
Yes, 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 and yes. So that's
so
a good news.
yeah, no, that's great news. That's very exciting, and I think our audience will really like that update. So that's very good. Just a quick reminder to our audience, all of the information on Deus is going to be below in the description. You can find us all across the socials on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. YouTube. Go back and watch these videos because we do cover a lot of really great technological innovations that Deus is doing. You can follow their stock symbol. It's DLYT. Obviously, this is in my opinion, and this is, I'm not a financial advisor, but it's a tremendously undervalued company, so it's a good buy now. And what I really like is the good that it's doing, and it is solid. I mean, I like the idea of clean drinking water. I mean, that to me is kind of a number one thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
So, I think when we look at these types of applications, especially heating and cooling and all the different use cases, we don't realize how much our lives are affected by these simple things. And so the innovation that Deus is doing is really incredible. So we thank you for that, Tim, under your tutelage. Is there any developments within your organization that you feel that you want to share with our audience while we have you today?
Not really. No, I mean we're moving very as quickly as we're allowed in terms of resource on the key things I spoke about earlier. That's conserve, the cross-industry uses, and the next generation of air conditioning. So, no, not really.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to keep following this. We're going to keep having the conversations with you. It's very exciting to see where this is going. I know we get a lot of notes that, hey, we really liked listening to Tim, learning about, the different products and kind of going more in depth into what it means as a result of the technology that Deus is creating. Because most people they look at the stock and they don't look at the company and the innovation behind the company, which is a driving factor. And so, that's really kind of the goal of what the Market Hunter platform does, is that we really want to understand, I mean, if I could say to someone, well, why do I care about, this company? Well, the answer is very simple. Do you like clean drinking water? Yes or no? I mean, that's just a simple, do you like?
Some people would surprise you with their answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, but even when you start looking into it, Tim, this is something that I really like when we kind of look at just very simple everyday use cases that a lot of obviously being fortunate to be in America, but when you look at the simple idea of extending the freshness of vegetables in your refrigerator for a longer period of time, that larger economic effect that it has on food waste, on the supply chain, the food supply chain, that makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference, and I think when people start realizing that, that's where it's, oh, I see where the market potentiality can go here, and there's a lot of maybe potentially overlooked positive value adds by deploying this type of technology.
Oh, sure.
So that's one of the reasons we're following this very carefully. So
like dried beef.
Say that again.
I was teasing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. So, but anyway, so we're going to keep following the company. If you're listening to it, we're joined by Tim, who's the CEO of Deus Corp. Their stock symbol is DLYT. You'll see it here on the screen. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow them across the social media platforms. We're your one-stop shop for all the information on the company, where we're bringing you this type of coverage and these types of conversations, which we think are critical, not just to the shareholder, but to the potential investor as well. So we like keeping this message going, Tim, and we really appreciate your time and obviously the work that you're doing at Deus.
Well, Hunter, thank you too for all the thought and effort you put into this. It's obvious that you do enjoy it, and I thank you for that. It's an exciting time. It really is.
We're going to keep watching it. So, Tim, until next time, we appreciate you joining us on the show. We'll keep this going. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, we just sat with Tim, and as you could see, there's a lot of innovation that's taking place within this sector. Obviously, some very interesting things that are going on. So we're going to keep following the company, and we look forward to covering its developments. And so you know where to find us. It's Market Hunters. Follow us, like, and subscribe across all of our channels, and we look forward to bringing you lots of opportunities to consider right here on Market Hunters.
Coming to you live with the insight you need from the financials and political capitals of the world to the heart of innovation. This is Opportunities to Consider with your host, author, speaker, and corporate strategist, Hunter Gayler.